and a balance of profit and market position. Them are the topics we're going to talk about today. So we're going to do quite a deep dive in these, not a total deep dive. Obviously, if you want to go deeper into these things, you can check out our one-on-one courses, our Microgreen business coaching course. And then at the end, we're going to do a Q&A session as always. And then that will be split off at the end of this for members only. And if you're not here for the live, by Tuesday evening, that will be split off. So take advantage of being here during the live session and get your questions answered. As always, we'll take members first and then see any super chats that come in, and we'll go in that order. So if you haven't yet, make sure you hit that like button. Share this out to anybody that you think might get value of it in, or any of the groups that you're in. If you're not subbed yet, make sure you go ahead and sub so you can make comments and ask questions. We will get into this episode, and we'll go ahead and bring Andy in from Fresh Source Farms as the co-host, as always, on here with us. How you doing, Andy?
Good. It's been a busy week.
Yes,
very busy week.
Very busy week for Andy. He had good orders come in, so that's always good to get more orders in. Do you want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. So, combined with that, we also started working on our new 4,000 square foot space this week. So I spent a couple days down there this week doing some drywall work and just kind of getting a general run of the land to see what the heck I need to actually change and make a list and get all that fun stuff started all over again. I feel like I just did this here last year, and I did. But yeah, we had a distributor we've been working with who reboarded a pretty large restaurant. So they let us know yesterday that we had to add a whole bunch of new things. So added about 100 trays roughly to our already growing craziness here. So we had to plant a lot of stuff today to get that process started, which was fun. So it's been a long day. I'm glad I was able to get done in time to be here.
That's a good long day, though. That's the long days you want, for sure.
Yep.
That recurring business is going to be huge. So congratulations on that, Andy. Very happy you got
Thank
that.
You. Yeah.
And again, I want to go ahead and thank all our members. You can find them all at the top here. These are our Harvest members at the top. Mark, Tom, Mason, Jennifer, we thank you for being our Harvest members. And periodically down at the bottom, we will have scrolling of everybody else that's members, all our Germination members on there as well, scrolling down at the bottom. So if you want to see your name, become a member. If you want to go deeper and get member-only stuff, obviously do that as well. So, all right, let's get into talking about your cost and let's understanding your cost. This is the very first important thing that you got to know when growing microgreens. So you don't know how to cost your microgreens, you don't know what to sell them at. So we got to know how to cost your microgreens. Very important to know what your production cost is. Production cost is including your seeds, soil, trays, water, energy, labor, any other expenses that are in there. We don't include our overhead, but you can if you want to. It's very important to keep track of these. Andy, do you got anything else that you actually track? I don't think so. Do you?
Yeah, not really. I mean, but it's just something that you have to know ahead of time, because even, for example, we added 100 extra trays to our rotation as of yesterday. So what does that mean cost-wise? What do I have to purchase? What do I have to make sure I have? It sounds like, all I have to do is buy 100 more trays, right? No, because unfortunately you've got some stuff that's on the racks for 3 weeks. So there's 300 trays, potentially that we would actually end up having to get just to get started. So this is where knowing those kinds of things and be able to forecast your costs, can definitely come in handy.
For sure. Yeah. If you don't know that, it's hard to make orders and know what you're going to do. And we've made that mistake in the beginning that we needed more trays than what we thought we needed, because you got to think about the turnover and how long that stuff's on the shelf and everything else. Like Andy said, it's huge. So calculating and monitoring product costs is huge. Want to go ahead and let you guys know, go ahead and add this in. If you can make that a little larger there, Jess. We are giving this away for free to everybody. This is our microgreen pricing and calculating cost sheet. There's a link in this video that will give this away for free to everybody. All you got to do is go to this website, sign in, and it's going to give you this sheet for free. This is where you're going to end up right here, and it comes with a video. This is part of our course, but we made it a free lesson. So you all can get it for free now. You all get the video, everything else. So, because I want to make sure everybody knows how to price our microgreens correctly and can be profitable in this business, because without that, we're not going to make it. So the video goes in detail, but it goes in all costs of your lights, your labor, your seed densities, your soil cost, all of that to come up with an average yield and everything else. So and what your cost per ounce is on there. So definitely check that out if you guys want to. We can go more detailed in it if you get in the Q&A here session. You guys want to go more detailed in it, we definitely can do that. But that's yours for free, so you know how to cost your microgreens. So take advantage of that, because that's a lot of work done on that spreadsheet. So all right. So let's talk about pricing strategies. Introducing a very pricing strategy. Obviously, you can go costs plus pricing, value-based pricing, if that's what your goal is, dramatic pricing, depending on your market conditions. So we'll talk a little bit about advantage and disadvantage of each of these. So cost price plus pricing, calculate the price based on production costs and desired profit margin. This is what we do. This is the costing strategy that we use. Andy, see you shaking your head. I'm assuming you do the same.
Yep. For most of our stuff, yeah.
Yeah. Some of it's value-based, I guess you can put in there. The ones that, are prettier product and stuff are cheaper, basically we stay with that cost price plus, your cost, what profit margin you want to make, and how much you need to make off of that. And that's what we do. So just, I'll look over at the sheet. We'll just use sunflowers for instance. They cost us, what our cost is 32 cents per ounce. That's what it costs for a tray, per ounce on a tray to get, with all the cost of a tray. Then you got to add in your packaging cost, your labeling cost. You can add in delivery cost on there as well. That's also on the sheet. Then that comes up to, if we sell a package at $5, we're making $3.93 off of that packaging. So that's how we price our microgreens for sale. That's our retail cost that's going to grocery stores, our home deliveries. Andy, you do a similar thing?
Yeah, very similar. And we try and shoot for a specific profit margin, or at least stay within a range of profit margin depending on what the crop is. But we also definitely do some value-based stuff as well. I mean, we have the amaranths, the bull's bloods, the basils, the celeries, the sorrels, things like that we're going to charge more for because of what they are. I mean, and it's a premium product essentially. Some of them take a longer period of time to grow. So you got to make sure you adjust your pricing for that as well. And then we definitely do some, like, I would consider dynamic pricing to a certain extent, depending on who the customer is. So there'll be some distributors we'll approach with a little bit lower of a price to get them on board. And then there'll be others that we approach a little bit higher price because they're not using anybody already or whatever, where we know, okay, we can probably make a little more off of these guys if we had to. So it just depends on the situation. For the most part, we try and stay within that cost plus pricing as best we can.
Yes.
Just makes the most sense. It's the easiest to calculate by far.
Yeah. And that's where I think you want to be, but like Andy said, you've got to get into somebody and then you can slowly raise their price up. We've done that with restaurants, get in a little bit lower price, and over the year, you raise it up to where you want to be at. We do restaurants every 3 months. We guarantee them a price for every 3 months, and then we can raise it after that or whatever else. And we have lowered it. We have gotten seeds at better price, or trays have cost less or whatever else, and we have lowered some prices, and then they order more. So there's also a balance with that. You got to think about too. You don't want to price it too high that they're not ordering a lot. You don't want to price it too low that they're ordering a whole bunch and taking you out of business. So definitely some playing with that and making sure you're making what you want. But if you use that sheet, it will lead you in the right direction for sure. Anything else on that, Andy?
I
think we covered.
that I can think of. Yeah. I mean, it's important. You have to know these things. I mean, you can't just go in willy-nilly and just be like, oh, I'll just charge whatever and, hope you're going to make money. So you got to make sure your profit margin. You got to make sure you put your budget together. You have to have that. If you don't have that, it's going to be a disaster.
Yeah, I've seen that in one of the groups. We won't mention which group that was in the Facebook groups, but some kind of support group that, selling 16 ounces of microgreens for $15. I'm like, no, you're going to be, and these people are an hour away from us, and I still gave them advice because I don't want them doing that. They're going to kill themselves. So they're going to kill the business of everybody, because if they go in with that price, they're going to ask me to go to that price. And obviously I cannot go to that price. We'd be out of business, and then it would hurt everybody. So the definitely know your price. It's a big topic out there. So let's talk about restaurants, because these can be a little bit different in what you're going to charge in pricing. One, because you're going to do in bigger volumes. Instead of doing 2 ounce packages for retail, you're going to do 8 ounce worth of volume, or 16 ounces or 64. You can get in bigger volumes of them. So you can actually charge a little bit different for these. Some strategies, volume discount. You can do that, give them a better price if they order more. Do you do any of that, Andy, with your
We
restaurants?
do volume discount based on the package size. So basically, their cost per ounce goes down up to a half a pound, and then we do up to like 1 pound, which is basically 2 half-a-pound packs. And then from that point, if they order multiple pounds, it's the same price as it would be if they ordered 1 pound. So if they're ordering 20 pounds or 1 pound, it's the same price per pound, basically from that point. But the idea is to try and get them to that 1 pound level. But ultimately, when you're harvesting larger packs, where you're saving time and money is in the packaging and the labeling, because you're only making one large pack with one label instead of a bunch of small packs, but you're also saving a ton of time in the labor. It's far faster to harvest large packs than it is to harvest small packs.
Yes.
You don't have to spend that extra. Yeah, you should know. I mean, all the grocery stores you deal with.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, when we switch from doing our large mixes, I mean, it takes no time at all. We can knock out a ton of stuff in about 2 hours, and then most of the rest of the day is just harvesting stupid grocery store orders and regular people orders, all in 2 ounce or 4 ounce packs, or it just takes so much longer. You're just spending that time having to weigh it out a lot more accurately, because when you're harvesting a large pack, you can cut as big as you can, as whatever you can fit in your hand, drop it in. It's just so much faster to do it that way. And I learned that a couple of years ago when I had a really big order. I think they wanted like 75 trays worth, and one order was for a local like harvest dinner kind of thing that they were doing, where they're getting stuff from all local farmers. And it would normally take me about 6 hours to harvest at the time. This is way back when I was doing a bunch of 2 ounce packs, and I thought, my God, I've got to add 75 trays to a 50 tray a week, setup that I already have. I was like, this is going to take me like 2 days. I had the 75 trays done in about 2 hours because it was all giant packs.
Boom,
So they go way faster. Yeah. So your amount of time you're going to spend is significantly less, when you're doing 8 ounce packs, especially. But don't go any bigger than an 8 ounce pack with restaurants if you can help it. Because last thing you want them to do is pull out some giant tub, and then they set it out and they forget to put it away, and all the greens are bad, versus having only lost 8 ounces at a time. So just a good suggestion.
And then 8 ounce packages you're doing in a 64 ounce container.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. Just want to make sure everybody understood that. It's
and
go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. I was just gonna say, like, a lot of folks will use the containers that kind of split in the middle. If you can get one that has a lid that basically the whole lid comes up, and the full depth of that container is what you're filling with microgreens. Because if you think about it from a standpoint of a restaurant, when they open up this and it's piled up this high, stuff's gonna fall off the side, or they're gonna knock it off the side. Reclosing it's a giant pain in the butt. So give them, good containers that open just straight from the top. That way it's really easy. They don't have to worry about shoving them back in there when they put the packing away back in the walk-in. So just, make sure you're using the right size containers and the right kind of containers.
Yes.
But 64 fluid ounce is perfect for 8 ounces of most microgreens.
Yep. I'm always jealous of Robert talking about, him. He does all restaurants, so it's all 64 ounce containers. He just boom, boom, boom. Can harvest so quick. And then we're over here doing all these 2 ounce packages. So,
yep. But if COVID-2 hits, you're going to be just fine.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Let's not. Hopefully that doesn't happen. But yeah.
Let's
all right.
not.
Well, talking about that and pricing for grocery stores, we'll roll into that. Special consideration of that, obviously, your package and presentation is huge. Your presentation when you're in the grocery store is huge. People buy with their eyes. They're walking by, they got to see color, they got to see a good label, a good package, good sturdy package that's going to last on a shelf, one that closes all the way properly so the greens don't go bad, because they're going to be sitting there for a week to 2 weeks. So you want to make sure they last. So supply consistently and reliably. You got to go there every week and deliver to them and making sure they have a good supply. You don't want to wait 2 weeks in between. I see people that do that. They wait 2 weeks in between. Some of that stuff might go bad in that time frame. So you want to be there every week and checking on them. And you want that weekly money anyway. I mean, come on, get that weekly money coming in. And so then you got to price competitively in the retail space as well. And also know that they're going to take at least 30% off the top. So if you're selling retail at $5, it's going to be $3.50 that you're going to get from a grocery store per package. Vice versa, however you're going to do it. It's going to be at least 30%. Some are 40. You can give discounts. I know, Andy, you do volume discount with the grocery stores that you got.
Yep. Yeah, and again, that's weirdly enough, it's dependent on what I think I can get out of them. If they're brand new and I'm like, I don't know, these guys are going to buy that much, I'll try and push that angle to try and get them to purchase extra. Because I know if I can get in there and do samples, if I can get a Facebook ad structure up and running to promote the fact that we're in there and hopefully get those people that live around that area to start shopping there, which has worked every single time. Then I know that they'll be fine, pushing that volume through. Because I know there's obviously the opposite of concern would be that you're giving them too much and they're throwing away a bunch and then they're going to cut their order back. I usually try and get the demand to meet what I'm giving them if I can do what I can to make that happen. So handing out free samples is huge because they're going to see your passion. You're going to be there to talk about your product, because otherwise, if you're not there, you're just hoping that somebody looks at your pack and goes, yeah, I'll take one of those. I'm willing to spend $5 on something I've never tried before. So that's the challenge, is getting people to make that purchase.
Yep.
But the nice thing is once you get in one, it's so much easier to get in another and another and another. Because then you could say, well, I'm in this grocery store and they're selling 60, 80 packs a week or whatever. And you can kind of work your way into some of the other ones and make them see that, hey, there's actually a demand for this. But expect to walk in and deal with a produce manager who's probably never heard of microgreens before. So you got to kind of work your way around that. And, hopefully samples to them will help you accomplish that.
And also, we did recon before we went into grocery stores. What does sliders look like? Because we wanted them in sliders. What was the width? What width the package could we get to fit in these sliders of their stores and all that? Because that's huge. You want to be in the sliders. You don't want to be down in the wells. You want to be in the sliders. That's going to make your product go faster. I know this is about pricing, but we get always go on tangents and talk about other things. But so you can do. We don't do a volume discount. We do just the $3.50 for the grocery stores. We also manage your sales for them. We stock and rotate and make sure they got products. We count how much they went through and decide what we're going to bring the following week and everything like that. And we do that with all our grocery stores. They don't have to touch that section. They love that. It's off their hands, and we fill their section and they're good to go. That's how we do it. I know a lot of it, and I know, Andy, you just drop it off and go.
Yep, just drop it off. Let them take care of it.
And we manage it, and I think that's one of our bigger selling points that we get into more grocery stores because we do that. Because everybody's hurting for labor these days. It's hard to get people for labor, so we take that part off of them for at least our small little section. So, and a lot of vendors are going to that now. You see a lot more vendor stocking going on and stuff, and I don't know if the grocery stores are asking for that or what. I just know we do it and done it. So it's as an advantage you can use to get into the grocery stores and keep your price at that 30% discount too. Don't go any lower than that if you're stocking. Don't go 40%. If you're going to stock, stay at that 30. Don't go any lower because that's your labor dollars you're putting into that. So definitely do that. Be competitive with your pricing. If somebody else is in there for very low, maybe you don't do it, but you don't want to be at the highest end either necessarily. And you also, when you're selling to grocery stores, make sure they understand they don't charge cheaper than what you charge for it anywhere else. So you have a minimal price. Our minimal price is $5 that they can charge. They can do sales and stuff like that, but their retail price has to be at least $5 because you don't want to go, which we're going to talk about in a minute. You don't want to go to a farmer's market and be selling it for $5, but it's $6. It's $4 at the grocery store. That makes you look like you're overcharging it for you to get it there. So you want to make sure they at least charge the minimal price on that at the grocery stores. So $4.99, $5 they can do. Most of ours are $5, $5.50, $6, some of them. So, and they sell well at it. We might change our retail pricing because of that, because they are going up and they're still selling them. So it's not a price thing necessarily. The grocery stores, I think it's like Andy said, getting people to buy your product that they've never bought before. So that's huge. Anything else on grocery stores, Andy?
No, I mean, I guess the only other thing I would add is that, don't be afraid to approach a grocery store that already has microgreens in their shop. Yeah. When we first started our very, very first grocery store that we landed in late 2020, about probably 5 months after we started, they already had a grower in there. And we went in and actually did a little recon like Mike does. And, we bought one of the packs and it was red acre cabbage, which was one of my favorite ones. and we were driving home and we popped it open and we were eating it in the car and it was disgusting. Like the flavor was so bad. We literally had to stop at the gas station to get something to drink to get the
Oh
flavor
man.
out of our mouth. So I don't know what the heck they were doing wrong, but it tasted awful. So we put our stuff in there as well. Started out and I think he had like 4 or 5 varieties. We were growing the same ones, but we were growing a bunch of others. And I said, I don't want to, directly compete, radish for radish, sunflower for sunflowers. Like
Yeah.
let's, just let him keep what he's doing. We'll put different things in. And over time, we gained more sales. They were losing sales. Eventually, they fell off completely. Unfortunately, it wasn't my intent, but
It
I mean,
happens.
it is what it is. Yeah. So then we basically once they were gone, all those varieties that they were supplying, we picked up overnight. So it worked out really well for us. But I mean, I didn't want to make the guy go out of business, unfortunately. But
Yep.
it is
You
what it
definitely
is.
can. You can coexist in the same space.
Yeah.
And it's kind of better that there's already microgreens, or they had microgreens in the past because they work there. They know people know about them. So it's easier if you can get into a grocery store that already has them.
Yeah.
Around here, people were already selling them in grocery stores here. They had some from another bigger company, and a lot of them. So so it was easier for us, I guess, even though we're in the Midwest. You wouldn't think necessarily microgreens would be popular, but they are. And there's multiple people selling them here, some bigger growers out of Chicago and stuff we're supplying. So yeah, we were easy to get in, and then we're local. So that's an easy transfer grocery stores too, because they're really focused on that nowadays as well. So use that angle, local.
Yep. And make
This,
sure that's reflected on your labels. Because
yes,
you really want people to understand that that's a local product. And you could even mention like the city in which it's grown. If it's close to wherever you're selling, I mean, that's
yep,
something they'll recognize and be like, oh, wow, that's right down the street.
yep.
So definitely make sure you get that across when you're putting your labeling together, especially for retail.
And local is considered 300 miles. If anybody doesn't know, that's so like local is a big range. So even if you're 100 miles away from the place you're going to deliver, it's still local. So I don't recommend 300 miles, but technically it is still local.
Yeah, that's a hike.
All right, let's talk about farmers market pricing, because this can be a little bit different, and you can do some different things to get people in to do it. So you want to tailor your prices for strategies for farmers market. This is direct consumer interaction, which I think is great, especially if you're new. Getting in front of people face to face and be able to talk to them about your products is huge. You got to be flexible in your pricing and approach, and based on the market demand. Can your market handle $6 or $4? What can they handle? What demographic is coming and shopping at your farmers market? We got a farmers market that is at the fairgrounds. $5 too much for it. $4, yeah, they'd buy it. $5 too much. Downtown, I could probably sell it for $6. Nobody would care. It just depends on the demographic that you're in. So know your demographic before you sign up for that market and make sure your pricing is tailored for that. We also do a 5 for 20. So if they buy 5 products, they get it for $20 instead of $25. So basically they're getting a free product. And it encourages them, especially if they got 3 products. That's when you can go, hey, we got a 5 for 20. Get another $5 out of that person standing there. Yeah, you got to give them 2 packages, but you're getting another $5. That goes a long way to get your sales up at a farmer's market. Andy, I know you've done farmers markets in the past. Did you do anything special with them?
Yeah, we also had a 5 for 20 when we first started, when we were selling everything for $5. We've since upped everything to 6. But we haven't done any farmers markets this year, but we also do like mixes that are essentially 5 for 20. We'll do a 10-ounce mix in a 64 fluid ounce container, and sell that for 22 at this point is what we have it set as. So yeah, for the most part, though, I mean, every farmers market we've gone to, we've kept the pricing the same across the board, which is handy for printing labels, especially when we do it in house. So
Yes.
that's one nice thing. But we definitely have seen in different areas different demand for the microgreens. Like the area that we're getting ready to move into in our new space has much, much, much higher demand for microgreens than the county I'm in right now. So I'm hoping to really hit heavy on the local subscriptions in that area, pick up some more grocery stores in that county. There's a lot more restaurants, a lot bigger population, so we'll have access to a lot more people and a lot more resources that we can use as the business, which is going to be really, really nice. So plus we'll be a lot closer to like major cities and, closer to some of the local distributors, things like that we haven't even talked to yet. They don't have the room. So, but yeah, definitely the farmers markets, I'm hoping to start them actually back up again next year.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I just didn't want to do it this year, not knowing when we were going to be moving into the new space.
Yeah.
But there's a couple big markets, one we were in before, and another even larger one that we have never gotten into. But they are begging us to come to this market. And it's apparently like 3 times the size of the big one we've already been going to, so it could be very lucrative
Nice.
for us. And we'll be a lot closer to it this time because otherwise it would have been about an hour's drive. Now it's about
Oof,
20 minutes from our location,
nice.
so yeah, it should work out nice. So
Nice. Yeah, close ones are nice. So we go one market
yeah,
that's about an hour away and one that's about 10 minutes away. So it is nice having them close by for sure.
yep,
And the one that's 10 minutes away is way better than the one that's an hour away. So,
yeah,
which is nice. All right. Make sure you get all your questions in, guys. If you have questions, go ahead and put them in the chat now for the Q&A that's coming up here in a little bit. And we will do a giveaway today as well. So go ahead and put a hashtag Thumbcast in. Make sure you spell that correctly. That way it goes in there. You can go put a hashtag Thumbcast for an entry, and we'll spin the wheel. And we got some new things on the wheel today. So, well, you'll want to get that in there and get a chance to win that stuff. So, and if you live, which we ran into this on the last one, if you live outside the United States or Canada, where it's harder to ship stuff out of to, if you win something that has to be shipped to you, we will do something else for you. That we'll figure something else out that we can give to you that we don't have to ship, because we want you to win something. So we definitely want that. If you live outside the U.S., don't worry, we will give you something that we don't have to ship, because it is harder, definitely, to ship out of here and costly. So yeah, go ahead and put that hashtag Thumbcast and any questions you got in there, and we'll get you guys taken care of. All right. We briefly already talked about this, but pricing wholesale, obviously strategies on these are volume discount, bulk pricing, consistency, supply inequality. Your wholesalers are going to want you to be there. Wholesalings are distributors, grocery stores, all that stuff. So, it kind of goes all in that. But so wholesaling is pretty much in all this other stuff. So we'll go ahead and go into distributors, pricing for distributors. So I am going to turn most of this over to Andy, since I am not in any distributors yet. We're working on it. So I will kind of turn this over to Andy. And what do you do for pricing for distributors?
yeah. So we do pricing a little bit lower at a wholesale type of setup for obvious reasons. I mean, we're basically the first person in a line of at least 3, that are going to touch our greens. Obviously, they have to buy them from us, then they have to turn around and sell them to whoever, it's usually restaurants for the most part. So obviously they have to make a profit and we have to make a profit. So, but they also tend to charge a lot more than what we would charge. So there's definitely wiggle room. I mean, honestly, the wholesale pricing that we give, in most cases, we're not losing much. I mean, maybe 50 cents to $1, on a pack roughly. And I'm not saying that'll work for everybody, but that's kind of where we are. Because I know that they're charging, so much more. I mean, they'll charge like $27, $28 for a half ounce, or I'm sorry, a half pound of microgreens, basic ones, which is crazy. So they're making a ton of money off of them. So there's no reason for you to have to, bring your prices significantly down in order to meet what they're looking for. And chances are, if you're starting with any distributor, they're probably already getting microgreens from this very large microgreen producer in California, who their products are not great. They only last for maybe 2 to 3 days after they receive them. So there's a good chance that your stuff is going to crush them in quality. And even if it's the same price that they're paying already, because they also have to pay shipping, as part of those orders as well. So they gave me kind of their price structure at one point. So they're buying the greens and they have to pay per pack to have it shipped. I want to say it was like 50 cents or something like that per pack to actually have them shipped, which is insane. So, we were able to basically match their pricing and then give them a local product's going to last for 2 weeks, instead of 3 days. So they love it. The chefs love it because the chefs were getting tired of having crappy product that was expiring so fast, and they couldn't use it for very, very long. So it's definitely a nice thing. But with a distributor, it's a whole different animal. I mean, this isn't a chef. This is potentially hundreds of chefs, so you piss off hundreds of chefs, and that's going to really piss off the distributor. So if you come up short or you can't meet the order or whatever, I mean, you better make sure you have a plan B in case you get hurt or you get sick, or whatever. Because if you're doing this by yourself and all of a sudden you land a distributor, I mean, the distributor that we had already, we just added 100 trays, like I said earlier in this podcast yesterday, to their already existing order. So if your system is not ready to handle 100 trays, you're just saying, oh, that's not that much. Guess what? It is, because you've got to order it. I mean, it was like $1,500 just in trays I had to buy. You got to make sure you have enough rack space. You have to make sure you have enough blackout trays. If you're doing blackout, you got to make sure you have enough humidity domes in our case, because one of the things they wanted was basil, so we had to like quickly wash, luckily my tray washer, I just said, hey, do these next, so that we were pumping out, clear trays really quickly to get them on top of the basil. But it's just, it's an animal that's really tough to tame. Oftentimes their salespeople who you're usually going to be working with are generally former chefs or current chefs. So they have that same, ego that regular chefs do. They have that same demand as regular chefs do, so it's really you gotta make sure your crap is in line before you get started with a distributor, because you may walk in and they may buy, let's say, $300-400 a week from you to get started. And in 2 months, they could be buying $1,500 a week from you. So it can go very, very quickly. The first time when we boarded these guys, we added 12 entire racks worth of stuff. It was $13,000 out of pocket of supplies we had to buy before we even got started. No contract, no nothing. They could have dropped us the next day and we would have been out $13,000, between racks, seeds, trays, lights, everything. So when you're adding on a client like that, it's significant. And if you don't think your system is in place and strong enough, then don't go for them yet. Especially if you're new or within a year even of getting started. If you've got some grocery stores under your belt and you're doing really well with those, and you know your harvest weights well, and you're really, really organized, and if you got all your systems put together and figured out, and you feel good about the whole process, and you've got a plan B in place just in case, then have at it. Go for a small distributor, and you can even approach them like that and just say, hey, I only want to start small. Let's just see where we can work in, and then build that up over time. You can totally do that if they're understanding of that. But the nice thing is they love local stuff. There's oftentimes things that you may be growing that they can't get from the existing one. Like cantaloupe is a big one for us. They can't get that from their current people. But they're also already buying things from this other place, and they want us to start growing those things to replace that at some point. So we're just literally waiting on the room to do it. We already know they want bull's blood and cilantro and parsley and a couple other ones that we've got to add to our repertoire at some point. We grow bull's blood already, but we suck at it. But hopefully Mike's video will help us out with that. But
yes,
yeah, distributors can be an awesome account. I mean, you're talking $50,000 to $150,000, $200,000 a year in one client, and it's one delivery. And that's the other thing. You got to make sure you've got some method to get the stuff there. You could easily fill 6 to 8 huge coolers worth of stuff to drop off one customer. So do you have a vehicle that can handle that? So those are all the kinds of things you have to figure out well before you start going down this road. Trust me, make sure you are totally ready to go before you take on this animal, because it can kill you.
A couple
Not
questions
to try and
for
scare
you.
you, but
a couple of questions for you off of that, Andy. How long does a distributor take to pay you?
We do net 30, and they're usually right around 30 days.
Because you got to keep that in mind too when you go into all these revenues. When are you going to get paid? You spent $13,000, but you also got all that 4 weeks of stuff that you're making before you get paid. So keep that in mind as well.
Yep. Some distributors will do check on delivery. Some will do 14 days. It just depends. I mean, the first one we went to, they actually said, well, we can do net 14. I said, well, it's fine. We'll start net 30 and see how it goes. And it's been right around there that they pay. So,
nice.
But in the end, it's not that big of a deal. We had enough stuff coming in already to where our expenses were covered at least, and it's just extra. So it's great. But I'm sorry, man. What were you gonna ask?
How do you pack them? Are they just all individual things, or how does it pack? Do you have to do it by cases, or?
Nope. So we actually, at least the one that we're working with right now, we go into their whole place is a giant walk-in cooler. And we actually put the packs right on their racks. So nothing's in boxes. We just basically we roll the coolers right inside, which is great. Empty them out right onto the racks, and then that way they're ready to go. So kind of like what you guys do with the restaurants. We'll shift all the old stuff forward if there's anything left from the previous week. Just go from there. But yeah, I mean, they love the fact that we were local. They love the fact that our stuff was super crazy good. I mean, I dropped samples off, I think in like early February, and by the time I came back, for the first order. I think it was like mid-March, so it was about a month and a half. They still had some of the samples sitting on the shelf, and they looked brand freaking new.
Nice.
And they were like, I can't believe these still look like this. I was like, well, they're not
Yeah,
being
we do
shipped from
good.
California. So, yeah, I mean, so they were super excited, and they went from having to only deliver microgreens, twice a week because the stuff was going bad so fast. Now they're just doing it one time a week,
Nice.
for our stuff. So that way they don't have to worry about being there 2 times a week. So it saves them on delivery. It saves them on a whole bunch of other things. But yeah, I mean,
They're
it's
happy.
definitely an animal you have to tame, and be ready to tame it because it will bite back 100%. They're tough. They're very tough. So that's why I really approach them with caution. Plus, a lot of them they want GAP certification or they want some kind of something to show that you're doing things the right way and all that jazz. So they all have different demands. I mean, the one that we're working on right now, which I'm hoping to land in the next few weeks, they basically told us they want our stuff. We're just waiting on the details. I mean, it was like 12 documents of crap that I had to fill out just to apply. I mean, this huge Excel sheet, we had to put every single size of every single thing, had to have a description, pricing, how many of these things can fit on a pallet vertically and, sideways and everything. It was nuts. So, yeah, it was a lot of effort just to get that one started. So that was tough. But yeah, just be ready.
Yeah. Be well into your business before you go to distributors. I definitely would highly recommend that. Like I said, we just now started approaching them in the last few months, knowing that we were getting a space and everything else that we could handle that volume if it did come about. We have 6 more racks ready to go, tray wise, everything else. So we're good. And we're freeing up space now that we have some better soil and getting better yields out of our products. So we're even freeing up more space. We probably are freeing up about 50 trays worth right now, and not selling any more stuff. Just freed up selling the same amount of stuff, just not having terrible yields. Helps out. I'm growing less stuff.
Magic of that Coco Loco.
Yes, the magic of that.
Yeah, I was
We are
happy to
trying.
get back to it too.
Yeah, I mean it's amazing. So, so far that's the best one we've ever found. But yep. So that was the last on the kind of things we've done to do. So you have to balance your profit and your market position. A dramatic nature of pricing. Where should it be? Static. Invest in your brand. Your brand is huge, especially if you go into grocery stores or selling retail. You definitely got to have a brand. You can justify higher prices if you have a great brand. If you're doing organic, you can charge a higher price. Stuff like that. So definitely your brand is huge. The role of customer feedback and refining pricing strategy is huge. If you can get customer reviews onto your sites and everything else, that's huge. Strive for that. Case studies, examples, have them on your websites, and it can help in your pricing adjustments as well. So definitely take what we said here from experienced growers and knowing how you price your stuff and get stuff into your right markets so you can make money. Use that price calculation sheet that we're giving away for free now. So definitely use that. And so you're charging correctly and going to figure all your costs out and everything else. So, and obviously you want to go deeper, you can go deeper into our Microgreen business coaching program. You can go deeper on Andy's one-on-ones. He has that as well. So definitely check that out. As we get ready to get into our Q&A, guys, get some questions in.